Hello, my name's Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for June 7th to June 13th of 2015. And on June 7th, we've got the sun. You can see it denoted right here by this black circle with a dot on it. It's in Gemini. It's also in the 35th hexagram. And on the outside of the wheel, we see the chop mark for the 35th. Numbered from bottom to top, the 35th goes yin, 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 yang, yin, yang. And then the 35th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here we have the 35th gate of change, progress by design. Progress cannot exist in a vacuum and is dependent on interaction. Located in the throat center in a collective abstract energy path in the sensing circuit called the channel of transitoriness, a design of a jack of all trades that connects to its harmonic, the 36th gate of crisis, the darkening of the light, the rule of cycles in which decline is a natural but not enduring stage. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we've got the following activated gates on June 7th. The sun is in the 35th gate. The earth is in the 5th gate. The north node is in the 18th gate with the south node in the 17th gate. Mercury is retrograde, but it's slowing down to turn direct on June 11th in the 20th gate. Venus is in the 56th gate. Mars is in the 45th gate. Jupiter is in the 7th gate. Saturn is retrograde in the 34th gate. Uranus is in the 51st gate. Neptune is at a standstill as it turns retrograde on the 12th in the 37th gate, and Pluto is retrograde in the 38th gate. Now, obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And the neutrino forecast is really just a weather report. No matter what the weather, an individual's strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru Hu said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as we begin the week, we've got one channel definition due to the transit field with Mercury in the 20th gate and Saturn in the 34th gate. We've got the channel of charisma until June 12th, which will influence us to become busier in the now, where the things we think about become the experiences that we're having. I'd expect folks to be more deeply involved in their daily activities and unaware of the expectations of others. People are not likely to even notice how busy they are, with the possibility of erupting spontaneously without an awareness of why. They're in their own little world, out of sight, out of mind. This also affects non-generator types in having a feeling of being busy or endurance to work, but obviously don't get used to it because that's just a conditioning aspect. They also may think that they know when enough is enough, which could lead to a premature or abrupt end to something that needs more time. And as individual circuitry, this definition brings melancholy or blue feelings that are best used in some type of creative activity. And we're going to be looking at the sun's Ravi-Ching line values daily, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ross said in Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when talking about these daily shifts of line values, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. Now, if your strategy and authority doesn't lead you in that direction, you can always notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. June 7th begins with the sun in the 6th line, the role model line of the 35th hexagram, and the sun in the 35-6 is rectification, the energy to correct, exalted, the process of crystallization coupled with ambition that assures timely and effective correction, progressive change that results in correction, detrimented, a destructive tendency that in its personal application may be necessary severity to ensure correction, but when applied generally, it will meet with resistance and tend to reinforce rather than rectify situations. Correction which brings change through severity and even destruction, and will always meet resistance. The sixth line, role model line, on the roof of the hexagram, tends to be looking beyond what's going on in the immediate environment. As Ra had said, not to get stuck with your head in the clouds because you'll end up with something banging into your shins or your kneecaps. Later on the 7th, though, the sun then moves out of the 35 and joins Mars in the 45, and the Earth moves out of the 5 and into the 26. We've got the Earth in the 26th gate and of the egoist, the taming power of the great, the maximization of power of memory applied to nurturing of continuity. This shift happens at 10:08 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, so you might want to convert that to your local time zone, with the sun in the 45th gate of the gatherer, gathering together, the natural and genetically beneficial attraction of like forces. The sun is detrimented in the first line of the 45 due to Mars also being in the 45, and it's described as canvassing, detrimented, and overzealousness that turns canvassing into proselytization and tends to alienate rather than gather support, the drive for material that leads to aggressive education. And when we've got the sun in the first, second, and third lines of any hexagram, those are days when people are looking more inward. They're more absorbed in their own process, with the theme of the investigative line is a fear or anxiety that needs to be investigated. This is a day to study, not to act. It's a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a good day to deal with things you don't understand, can't make sense of, or don't know. And when we've got the sun in the first, second, or third lines of any gate, it's about its own process rather than the harmonic gate on the other end of the channel. Also on the 7th, we've got Venus moves from the 56 and into the 31, which then brings us another definition here, with the G center being defined. And in human design, Venus is very powerful and deeply misunderstood, according to Ra. It brings morality, our values, natural law, in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, and what disturbs you on a moral level. Your design and personality Venuses tell about the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life, and that if you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in its retribution. In the 31st gate, Venus is in the gate of leading, influence, the law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference and thus influence. Venus is in the first line of the 31, which is manifestation. Influence cannot exist in a vacuum. Exalted, the sun cannot hold back its light, and thus its influence on every life. The natural expression of leadership. Detrimented, it's the absorption of light that in darkness can only promise manifestation, the unnatural expression of leadership. And with Venus in the 31st gate and Jupiter in the 7th gate, we've got the channel of the Alpha, which is the design of leadership for good or bad until the 13th. This might be a time where folks are recognized as true leaders, but the more reluctant they are to assume this responsibility, the better leaders they become. Being a logical collective channel, it confers the ability to understand patterns and trends that can be projected into the future. This can they can also explain this information logically in a way that others can understand. The most important aspect of these leaders is that they are tuned to the rhythms of the people that they lead. And then on the 8th, the sun then moves out of the investigative line into the hermit line, of the 45. So the second line, and the shift happening at 9:39 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun is detrimented in the second line of the 45, again due to Mars, and it's described as consensus gathering together is strengthened by acknowledging common interest, detrimented an innate rebellion against conformity, the refusal to accept the material techniques of others. Second line days, the line of the hermit, everybody's waiting for something. They're waiting to be called, particularly called because of their natural talents. People are stuck in their own trip. It's not a great day to have a party or a big social event because folks really just don't want to come. They'd rather stay home under the influence of the hermit. On the 9th, the sun then moves into the third line, the martyr line of the 45, at 9:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Again, the sun is detrimented in the 45-3 due to Mars being in the 45, which is exclusion, a detriment, an aggressive and often violent reaction to reclusion, the expression of frustration when not included in the material process. Third line days, the line of the martyr, we're talking about a trial and error process, bonds made and broken, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. Things bump into you under that third line energy, so be careful on the roads. Be careful of swinging doors, swinging elbows. Might be a day when you have bonds made and broken, a trial and error process. It's a good material day. It's a good day to do business and work on the material plane, but you have to be careful because things can go wrong. But ultimately, those things could lead to discovery. On the 10th, the sun then moves into the fourth line, so into the opportunist line of the 45 at 8:42 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun again detrimented in the fourth line of the 45 due to Mars being in the 45. This is direction, detriment, and the tendency to try to influence the direction of a group for personal benefit, and the lack of expression of higher principles on the material plane. And the fourth line day, we're moving out of the lower trigram of the first, second, third line into the upper trigram, fourth, fifth, sixth line. So this is a shift in perspective of changing from more of an inward perspective to more looking outward, with the themes of friendship, companionship, networking. Fourth line days are great for social interaction. People are more open to networking and being friendly and social. And when we're talking about the fourth and fifth lines activation of any gate, it's actually looking to see if the harmonic gate across the channel is being defined within its own process. And then on the 11th, the sun then moves into the fifth line, the heretic line of the 45 at 8:14 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 45-5 is described as leadership. All gathering together must have a center and a focus exalted, the intuitive intellect, and the gift for innovation that enhances continuity through respect of the center, the gift of expressing leadership on the material plane, detriment, a sense of right action that assumes a respect that may not yet have been earned, the drive for leadership that may not have been earned, may not yet have earned the right. Fifth line days, when we're talking about the fifth line, the important thing to understand about the heretic is it's about projection. And the projection always goes positive than negative. Positive, they could do it, they'd be great, they're the perfect person for whatever. And then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it, doesn't want to do it, for whatever reason, the expectation is not met, that's when they're punished, tied to a stake and lit on fire. So basically, when we think about this, It's a day of suspicion, but also universalization, where something can leak out and spread like a virus, whether it's a YouTube video or a Facebook post that goes viral. There's also paranoia associated with the fifth line day. But as I've said before, if they're out to get you, then it really isn't paranoia, is it? And given the projection field, often they are. This obviously impacts the nature of relationships, with seduction being a theme of a fifth line day as well. The 12th, the sun then moves up into the sixth line of the 45 at 7:47 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 45/6 is reconsideration. An outsider that can admit that its prior rejection was in error will generally be accepted in the gathering, exalted, an innate empathy with the outsider mentally, and its eccentric, often misunderstood logic, the material direction that serves the outsider, detrimented, demanding that the outsider conforms to the material direction that is focused on conditioning the outsider to conform. And as we talked about before, sixth line, we're on the roof of the hexagram. If you think about being on the roof of a building, we tend to not be looking at the building so much as what's coming next, what's around, what's happening in the neighborhood. So Ra talked about, again, not getting stuck with your head in the clouds, because something will end up banging into your shins or your kneecaps. There's a lack of focus on what's going around because people are looking beyond their immediate environment. Like third line days, there's certain dangers of not seeing a car coming, not seeing a bill coming. And the sixth line of any gate is looking not just at the harmonic gate on the other side of the channel to see if it's defined, but also what else is defined within the entire circuit group that it's a part of. Also on the 12th, we've got retrograde Saturn moving out of the 34 and into the 14, which certainly influences this, in that we will still have the Mercury in the 20th gate. But the definition for the, just making sure we got everything still here. The definition of the channel of charisma has gone away. So anyway, let's just kind of go through this. Ra describes Saturn as yin and yang clothing. Saturn is the judge. This is a place of vulnerability with the consequences of our action. And strategy and authority really is the best way to avoid paying the Saturnian price. And then the 14th hexagram is power skills, possession in great measure, the accumulation and the retention of power through skilled interaction, coupling grace with control. And retrograde Saturn backs into the sixth line of the 14, which is humility, wealth and power at its most exalted. Exalted, the enlightened recognition that material success is God's will, and spirituality is the key to acceptance and the source of power. Detrimented, all manifestation of this position are essentially positive, representing the existential recognition that material success was unavoidable, and the humility engendered in such serendipity. Existentialism is the key to acceptance and the source of power. And on the 13th, the sun then moves from the 45th hexagram, and actually Mars moves out of the 45 just 5 hours earlier and moves into the 12. And with this, we have the Earth moving out of the 26 and into the 11. So both the sun and Mars moving from the 45 to the 12, 5 hours before the sun, uh, and of course, then we've got the Earth is in the 11th gate of ideas, peace, a harmonic condition in the individual or society that permits assessment before renewed action. This shift happens at 7:19 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with the sun in the 12th gate of caution, standstill, the quality of restraint, and the importance uh, meditation and inaction in confronting temptation. The sun in the first line of the 12 is described as the monk, withdrawal that can be only maintained with communal support, exalted the beauty and harmony possible beyond the reach of temptation, the expression of social withdrawal and its value when supported by others, detrimented Simon the Stylite, total and often absurd withdrawal, the absurd expression of social caution and extreme withdrawal from emotional conflict. And again, we got the sun in the lower trigram, first, second, third lines. Again, shifting back to more of that inward process with the first line, investigative energy, having a fear or an anxiety that needs to be researched, to study, to look into things, to try to uncover something that perhaps you don't understand. And then also on the first, we've got Venus moving out of the 31 and into the 33. So this definition goes away. And as we mentioned before, Mars, along with the Sun, moves from the 45 to the 12. So we'll cover that. First of all, Venus. In human design, Venus is very powerful and deeply misunderstood. We talked about this earlier, that it's about values and morality and things like that. In the 33, Venus is in the gate of privacy. Retreat, the active withdrawal and transformation of a weak position into strength. Venus is in the first line of the 33 is avoidance, exalted, the wisdom in a weak position to recognize that survival demands complete withdrawal, retreating when one realizes that they are in a weak position. Detrimented, where courage is just plain foolishness, unable to retreat and often overwhelmed by stimulation. And then with Mars moving along with the Sun from the 45 to the 12, again, this is the gate of caution, standstill, the quality of restraint, and the importance of meditation and inaction in confronting temptation. Mars also in the first line of the 12, the monk, withdrawal that can be maintained with communal support, exalted the beauty and the harmony possible beyond the reach of temptation, the expression of social withdrawal and its value when supported by others, detrimented Simon the Stylite, total and often absurd withdrawal, the absurd expression of social caution and extreme withdrawal from emotional conflict. And Ross spoke about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy resource that lacks refinement and is subject to outbursts. Mars represents the warrior archetype in mythology, and by following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine the energy of our design and personality Mars from immaturity to wisdom. So no matter what the energies are that are conditioning you during the week, just remember this experience is about being a passenger, riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what dramas beckon to distract us. We're all here just giving the performance of a lifetime on this world stage. Just remember to observe the play, observe your movie, as well as acting your part by remembering you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on June 14th, 2015. Should be available on the 13th, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube, as there's New World Birth presences in all those places. I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you've got any questions or wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And as I've said before, you can email me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you want to make a donation or get a reading. It's a lot of great information. Can be very, very helpful. And I have different types of readings available. Human design reading, of course, also astrology transits, solar return, Chiron return, Saturn return, Uranus opposition, as well as compatibility between people. So lots of different things that are available if you want that type of information, and or if you wish to support us here at New World Birth. As always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. Anyway, gratitude to everybody, and look forward to connecting with you in a future video or in a reading or in an email if you've got a question. All my best to everybody.